Hi, welcome back. My name's Newman and this is my life with plants. Today I'm going to do a tour of my house plants and show you what's flowering and what's doing really well, and a few growing tips too. So stay tuned for more. First off, I would like you to have a look at my Hoya Bella. I had trouble growing this plant a couple of years ago. It wasn't doing too well. It's all to do with the watering. As you can see here, it's flowering magnificently. What a fragrance. This plant has 3 blooms. One over this side. Let me come over. 4. And there's no more yellow leaves. Plus it's got a bud on the way. Well, 1 bud. 2. 3 buds counted so far. What have I done? Well, what I've changed is the fact that I keep a little bit of water in the reservoir, not too much, and once it's used it up I add a little bit more. And I've been using ammonium sulfate, which is a kind of granular crystal looking substance, and what that does to the water is it changes the pH to more acidic, so about 5.5, and it's a nitrogen boost, so it promotes healthy root growth, healthy leaves, and also keeps the soil healthy too. So over here is a cutting that I did. And this cutting has gone berserk. 1, 2, 3 blooms. Buds popping up everywhere. It's in a very small pot there. So this is really going well. Next up I'd like you to look at is this Hoya. So I'm going to bring it over here into the light. This is Hoya David Cumingiana, David Cumingi, or Cumingi, David Cumingi, or Cumingi. There's a bud there, another bud here. It's been in this pot for going on 4 years now. Doesn't need to be repotted at all. In actual fact, if you look at the soil here, you can see these very nice white new roots growing in the medium all the time. Once again, that ammonium sulfate. Before I started using that, I used white vinegar, which does the same thing. But I think the ammonium sulfate is a better product. Here is Hoya Curtisii, and it started to put out some new growth, which is right here, right there, finally. The thing is with this plant is that I give it a good water, then after that I drain all the water out. I'll leave the water in there for 15 to 20 minutes so it soaks it up into the medium. The medium is Coco Coya, just that, with a little bit of bark. It's been in there for a few years. The growth is starting to get better now because I put it into a window that's see, west. Is it west facing? No, east, sorry. Definitely needs a lot of light. Let me just put this plaque here in the crowded window. Next up, let's pop over here. This is my Peperomia happy bean, and it is very happy and very beany looking. Those leaves, they just look like beans. Thing is with peperomias is once they start looking straggly and losing their bottom leaves in late spring, just make cuttings and grow it again. It's the best way. You can see all those sticky traps in there. It's problems with fungus gnats. Now this is my epiphyllum jungle cactus, Ripsalis. Hasn't had any flowers yet, but it's grown berserk. It's actually gone over to the Hoya Bella there. It's a nice growing plant. I like it for its nice green leaves. And up here, let me take this down. Sorry about the camera work. I'm just trying to make do with what I have. I don't have the best equipment, but I do what I can to show you videos of my plants, and this is just all about sharing information and helping out everyone to have more success with their plants. Look at that there. There's a flower bud on a peduncle. This is Hoya Matilde. I took this cutting about 2 years ago and I grew it in a clear plastic cup that you would get from a takeaway store with the lid. I kept it in there until it grew a healthy root system and moss. Repotted it and away it goes. And the watering has made the difference. It's actually made a lot of more growth than it ever did before. Over here, let me get it. Bring it over to the light. This is Sunrise, Hoya Sunrise. Hoya Sunrise is magnificent because of its veiny red hue. Let's say that again. It's got a nice red hue to the leaves and those green veins that contrast nicely. The more light you give it, the darker the red gets. And this also has a flower right there that's going to open very shortly. We just had some flowers actually, and very sweet fragrance. It's not like a perfume, it's more like a very sweet, almost kind of a, you'd want to eat it. It smells so good. Just let me pop this back up into its position, which was right there. And move it over a little bit more. There we go. These are Phalaenopsis. This is one that I recently brought. I bought this one. You can see it's got this white rim around the petals there. It's beautiful bright pink flowers, and the leaves have a beautiful variegation around the edge of the leaves here. It's also trying to flower again, so it's got a spike coming up right there, and another one coming up somewhere. Oh, there you are. Let me get this focus here. There it is. You can see it just peeking out right there. And this is my beautiful Phalaenopsis sakuran, named after the sakura, which is the Japanese cherry tree, because it has an unreal fragrance. Now it's a real perfume smell, quite strong actually. So having one orchid like this can just bring a beautiful fragrance right through the whole house. And it's a very prolific, healthy plant, as you can see there. We must have a look in here. Philodendron, heartleaf philodendron. Look at those leaves. Beautiful green. This thing is trailing like anything. Look. Look how long that is. This thing is growing crazy. And then over here we have a big surprise, the peacock plant, Calathea makoyana. These leaves are as big as my hand. And it is pushing out new growth. As you can see here, there's the new leaf coming up there. Another one right there. Where else? There's another one right here. This one gets afternoon sunlight, as you can see here, but I put this netting on the window to bring the sunlight down to half, even though it's very mild. They don't need that much sunlight at all. And this is burl marks, and that there is the beginnings of flowers. 1, 2, 3. You see 3 here. This plant is massive. I mean, let's just put my hand here as a comparison. It's outgrown the pot. It's very healthy. And what am I using? Ammonium sulfate in the water. This is what's making it so healthy. Although Calatheas are not one for high temperatures, so unfortunately in here it's going to suffer from brown tips in midsummer because it just gets too hot. It can't be helped. Next up is this magnificent thing, and this is my Philodendron Brazil, and this thing is trailing all the way down to here. Look at that. It's about 5 feet of vine. It's just magnificent. Who doesn't like Brazil? Because every single leaf has a different pattern. Every single one is different. Every time a new leaf opens, you get a different pattern. It's been living life well here. As you can see, there's one window here, and that's north, so that's the very least light you can get. And then you have your west window. So it's kind of just like some bright light from each side. I mean, look at that. Look at these roots coming out of this thick stem here. It just makes me want to do cuttings and grow more, which is my habit. To show you my Syngonium, this pink one. It wasn't doing too well last year, but now it's starting to flourish and turning into a beautiful plant. Why is it planted lopsided? Because there was two in there and one died. But this one is starting to flourish now, so it's doing really great. And that's just a pot of golden pothos. It's got plenty of roots on it now. All I have to do is repot them. Okay, next up is this Peperomia Hope. It's 4 feet of vine. And as you can see up here, can you see the new growth? There's like 2 stems shooting out of there. That is from the new watering schedule. It's really liking it. And it's showing it too. Next up, the super long vine of Ceropegia woodii. This thing is really long. I have to keep cutting it all the time. It'll eventually need repotting, but for now, it's going really well. But once the leaves get smaller and smaller and they really need a repotting, then I just go ahead and do it. It hangs in the next to a southern window, so it gets plenty of bright and direct sunlight. Next is the magnificent Hoya Hindu rope. That if you smell it, it smells like chocolate or raw chocolate, cocoa. It smells just like cocoa when you open up a bag of cocoa. And it has these 2 big flowering balls of flowers here. And then it has another one right there. And then one right here. On its newest peduncle. This plant's been growing in here for a number of years. Over 3 years now. So it's in pretty high light, actually. It's in the brightest window, the southern window. Coming over to here, it was flowering. It's probably starting to get some more buds. There's a Hoya David Cumming eye. It's a cutting I've made, or one of them. I got one more. It's been flowering really well and growing. Next over here is your Hoya Carnosa Crimson Princess. I'm pretty sure it's the princess one. It hasn't flowered yet, but it's putting out new growth. You can see right here, this is new, and that leaf, this beautiful leaf here, this pink, it's a new leaf. Next, a flowering Hoya Mathilde that's dripping all this nectar. You can see here, look. See this sticky nectar. So, that's why I hung this net here, suspended from the bottom of that macrame to this one. So any honeydew or nectar will just drip into there. But this thing has got buds all over it, look. Buds here, buds there, buds everywhere. This is a new shoot with the buds growing. Doesn't want to focus right there. How can I describe the smell when I smell it? It smells more in the evening, actually. It's the closest thing I can describe this smell is kind of an aniseed smell. And then over here, if I just pick it up, Turn it around a little bit. It has masses of buds everywhere. I mean, this thing is, if you saw this in a nursery, you would not say no to it. Do you like how I've used that wreath here? It's just for decorating the home and sticking flowers into it. But I thought it would be great, and I've just used twist ties here to tie it on. I thought it would look great if I just let Hoya Mathilde just clamber and scramble around this. How's that for an idea? Let me know if you like it. Next up is another one of my 4 Hoya sunrises. As you can see there, it's got 1, 2, 3 old peduncles that are going to flower for the second time. It's getting a bit of a salt build-up because it gets a little fertilizer in the water, but that's easy to deal with. I just take it to the sink and I set the tap or the faucet on a rose head, just like a shower head. And I shower the whole plant, and then I shower inside here till it's filled with water, and then I empty all the water out, and I do that 2 or 3 times. And then after that I will add the water that's had the ammonium sulfate added to it. I'll add that later or last. And as you can see here, it's liking the water. The water's doing it well. Here's another Hoya Bella that's going absolutely nuts and growing out everywhere. This thing's huge. Once again, I have it in another pot, in this cache pot, and I just have, barely that much water in the bottom, and then it slowly drinks it up. And that's about all I do. Sorry about that. I was just squashing a fungus gnat, so they pop up every now and then. That's why I got the sticky traps in here. Instead of just hanging the whole thing like that, which is a waste because they don't last long. After a week or 2, it loses its viability. It's not as sticky, and the fungus gnats won't get stuck on it anymore. So it's better to cut little bits off and you set it directly on the plant medium is where they hang out. And then they go for a walk and they get stuck on it. Works better, and it's cheaper that way. Does this have any buds? Sure it does. Right there. There's a bud. It's got a couple of buds on the way here too. One there, one over there. Couple more buds. Down here is a Sansevieria moonshine. If you live in a place that's very, very, very humid, like over 80% humidity during the summer, you should take caution with watering. During the spring season, when the weather isn't so humid, but you got warm sunny days, it likes to be watered quite well. I just experienced that it can get rot if you don't let it dry right out. And don't be alarmed if it wrinkles. So usually underwatering is showing like this. This is typical underwatering. Leaf tip death. Doesn't hurt the plant. It's got vigorous rhizomes that store water very well. So it's better underwatered than overwatered. I've actually watered it twice now, and when I do, the first time is a light watering after winter. And the next 2 ones are a thorough watering. And the trick is the Sansevieria is that they have such thick rhizomes that if you water it and it runs out the bottom, it hasn't saturated the whole mix, because it's gets very difficult to wet the whole medium with its vigorous rhizome root system. So it's better to take it outside and run the water through it for a good minute, thoroughly soak it, and then use the good water after it's had the ingredients added to it, the ammonium sulfate or white vinegar, if you use that in your water to make the pH viable. But I think ammonium sulfate is going to do a better job because it's got nitrogen in it, which is going to help a lot more. In this room you had this magnificent sedum organianum that I had hanging outside, but I'm not allowed to hang it outside anymore, so it hangs indoors now by a bright window. I love this plant. It's magnificent. It's got these long branches hanging down, and sorry about the light in here, the sun's moved around, but you can see an offset right there. So don't get too alarmed and don't freak out if you knock all your leaves off the hanging stem, because along there it'll produce an offset. So it'll start to look decent. You can see it's got 3 there. So it's filling in the void or the gap there that was made. Next is my magnificent spider plant. This thing is huge. I love this plant. I've had it for a number of years, and I've had it for going on 2 years now, I think. Once again, you use the right water with the right pH and fertilizer, and it keeps the soil healthy, keeps the roots healthy, and the plant just keeps growing for many more years. Time for a surprise. Ta-da! Look at the size of that. It was twice the size of my hand. This pothos that have been growing up on a moss pole. And as you go right down to the bottom, you can see that it started off life small. So as it started growing up, it started to produce these roots. And then as it grew up more, it would get a slightly bigger leaf than last time. Just gotta have a look at those chunky roots. Now the stem is getting really thick up towards here. Or if I put my finger here as a comparison, here's my finger. It's twice the thickness of my finger. And it's got some massive roots that are growing out of it. You can see there. How do I keep it moist all the time? Here's a drink bottle with cotton thick cotton string. So I made a hole in the top, put it through so it dangles through inside the container. You see how it's dangling through inside it. I bring it around here. There it is. And I just fill that up with a nutritious mix of water. And I pop it upside down like that. So this extra bit of chicken wire mesh stops the bottle from falling out, and it slowly trickles into the moss and moistens it, and then the moisture will travel down. So this thing is moist all the time. Almost every other day I fill it and put it back in there. Okay, next up, this huge Sansevieria whales, man. I could paddle down the river with those. This thing is massive. And you got two more Hoya sunrises, one there and one there. Then you got my pothos, golden pothos that have been growing in here in this hanging pot. Starting to push out some new growth now. And this new growth is actually, these leaves are huge, pretty big for a hanging plant. Over here we have another David Commingiana. I don't know if you see those peduncles are starting to grow buds again. It's pretty magnificent. It's growing really well. Next to it is another philodendron Brazil that's as long as a boa constrictor. It's growing all the way down. It's about 2.5 to 3 feet. Two more Hoya bellas. Look how well they're growing. So healthy. Next to that is a beautiful Phalaenopsis with many more buds to open up. Look at that. Let me come over here so you can see that flower again. There. It's a rescue orchid. I brought it back to health. Down here we have one that has a harlequin pattern on it. It's got masses of buds along the flowering stem here, and it's even got stems coming off the stem with buds, so it's probably going to have over 30 flowers. And you got this Phalaenopsis here that I love. Look at this beautiful white with the yellow. I love it. This is also a rescue orchid I got for $5, and I brought it back to health. One of my favorites, this one. This thing is a work of art. Look at that. It's magnificent, this Phalaenopsis. And down here is one that I've been nursing back to health. And you can see that it's got this beautiful flower spike coming out, which means it's starting to do well again. That was my fault when I was still learning about how to grow them well. Make sure they dry in between watering. Don't keep watering them even if they're slightly moist. And this is my new acquisition I bought today at a Phalaenopsis wholesale. People who grow them have been growing them for over 30 years, and I didn't even know they were there. Ran into the store today, but they wouldn't let me film inside their greenhouses. But they're beautiful Phalaenopsis like this, and this big beautiful specimen was $20. Look at that. It's got blooms all over it. And next is my Peace Lily Domino. It's putting out all these new leaves for me. It's a beautiful plant. I enjoy looking at it every day. What's interesting is that every leaf has different patterns. They keep changing. See that? Those two things there, they're epiphyllums. So this one is a German Empress, which has magnificent salmon pink flowers and mass of flowers, massive buds, like buds that go all along every single groove will have a bud. The typical flowering epiphyllum that has 1 to 2 or 3 big blooms per leaf, but this one is the one that I bought as a cutting. It's starting to root away now, getting good root system. It's just going to take a few years for it to get big enough to flower. Alright, and that is about it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you got a few tips there. And this concludes my houseplant tour, and stay tuned for more adventures out there. I hope to meet some more local people, and this time I'm going to do better videos with it. It only comes with practice. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you again next time. Bye.